Hello, and welcome to the Crafty Ninja channel. For this design, I used a 30-ounce tumbler with a handle, and I rolled out some clay and I wrapped the entire cup minus the handle in my clay. If you would prefer to cover your handle, you can do that as well. Once your cup is completely wrapped in the clay, then you're going to trace your design on top of your clay just to get an idea of how you want your design to look. If you are uncomfortable with the idea of freehanding your drawing onto your clay, there is a way where you can print your design on paper and put it on top of your clay and then trace over the paper to leave the impressions in your clay. I will have a tutorial in where I do this, so you will see what I mean, but for this one I just freehanded where I wanted my design to go. Once you have your design mapped out, then you're just going to take some clay and you're going to build up the areas where you want it to be detailed. Here I'm starting with the mountain, and I'm just putting clay right inside where I want that mountain to go, and I leave space around the eyes and the mouth because later I will put glow-in-the-dark clay there. Here I'm starting another hill that's going right in front of that mountain, and I want to make sure that I create kind of the foreground element so it looks like it's closer, so I make it a little bit bigger than the mountain that I just did. We're going to do the same thing with the third hill. Now I did end up covering these pumpkins because I ended up moving them to a different location, but even if you're going to place them in that same spot, it's not a big deal because you can add them later and it won't mess anything up. I do apologize that this part is slightly out of frame, but I'm just adding a strip of clay to create kind of a stone wall that's going to have some wire posts in it. Then I take my silicone tip tool and just create a little bit of a random texture. After I finish with the texture, then I take a rope of clay and create the posts that are sticking outside of the top of the wall. Once I'm finished with that, then I'll take a couple long ropes of clay and go across the other way. Next we are going to start doing the Starry Night sky, and I just take some ropes of clay, like just big clumps of clay, and I start creating that swirly sky texture that Van Gogh is known for doing. Then I take a really large circle cookie cutter and create my moon and place it right above my swirly mountain. After we apply our moon, then we're going to take some random pieces of clay and place them around our cup in the sky. These are going to be our stars. Now we're going to add some texture. I take my silicone tip tool and I create these long lines that just go with the flow of that swirl that we have in the sky. Then we're going to create the texture in the stars, and I just kind of do a random marks in my stars. Nothing in any particular order, just to kind of create that paint texture that Van Gogh does to his stars. Now we're going to start doing the texture in the sky. Van Gogh is known for using thick brush strokes, so we're going to take our silicone tip tool and we're going to try to recreate those thick brushstroke textures with our silicone tool. I'm also making sure that I go kind of in a flowy pattern when I place my texture around the stars and the swirl and the mountain and the moon. We are also going to add some texture to our moon, and I do this in the shape of the circle. When I get to the center, I just go a little bit lighter in the texture that I add to the moon. Now we are going to add our pumpkins. You're going to take some clay in a circle and just create these pumpkin lines and place them wherever you want them to go. Once you're finished adding the lines to your pumpkins, then you're going to add faces. Next, we're going to add Jack and Sally to the top of our mountain, and I had forgotten to retrace my persons on top of my moon. You can absolutely retrace that back on there so you know exactly where you want the body to go, but I didn't do it, so I just freehanded this. I also want to point out that I had forgotten to record the texture that I did on the mountain to kind of make it look like Oogie Boogie. I just used one of my metal tools and they have a texture on them, and I just rolled it all along that mountain to kind of give it a burlap texture. Once I'm happy with Jack, then I start adding Sally. So I must have not recorded all of doing 0, but I do place him right at the edge of the moon, and you can basically just get an image of him and just recreate him the way you do with Sally. And now we finally get to paint. Before I talk about the paint though, I did forget to also record the glow in the dark part, but really you just put glow in the dark paint. I use Cosclay's green glow in the dark and place it right where his eyes and mouth goes, and I just created some teeth texture. But now on to the paint. Now for the mountains, I created not quite black. I wanted it to be a dark gray, so I took some black and just mixed a little bit of a light gray to it, and I just painted my mountains in this color. Be sure to be extra careful when painting around the glow-in-the-dark clay because you want that to be completely clear of paint. Once I have my base dark gray color, I take a lighter gray color and just place some random paint marks all the way around my mountains, and I even go a little bit lighter on top of that, so it's 3 different gray colors that I'm placing on these mountains and hills. I also like to do this while the paint is still wet, so it kind of slightly blends, but I don't want to go too much in the blending. But it just kind of gives a little bit more of a cohesive look while also looking very artistic. We're also going to do the same thing to the fence. Here I went a little heavy with the light gray, but that's okay because I just took some of my darker grays and I went over it and blended it in, and it turned out looking really good. I decided that my fence wasn't quite popping as much as I would like, so I went with a very light gray and I dry brushed it onto my fence. For the pumpkins, I didn't want them to be a bright orange, so I took some normal orange and I mixed it with a light brown just to kind of give it a creepier color, and then I just paint all of my pumpkins. Here I took a grayish brown color and painted it just on the left side of all of my pumpkins to kind of give it a shadowed effect and make it just a little bit creepier. Then once I'm finished with the brown, I dry brush that same orange that I used earlier on top. When I'm finished painting the color of my pumpkins, then I take some black and I paint it in the eyes and the mouths. Once we're finished with the lower portion of our tumbler, then we are going to start working on the sky. And I took this light blue and I start painting it on that swirly part of the sky. Then once I finish with the light blue, then I start adding some random streaks of white in that swirl. And if you find that you're using too much white, then just go over it a little bit with that same blue you used at the beginning. For the stars, I start by using a very pale yellow. And I also do it on the moon as well. Then I take a brighter yellow and then I do the random marks like I did with the swirl around my stars and my moon. For the moon, I also added a little bit of white to it. For the actual sky, we are painting it a somewhat dark blue, and we're going to do this in sections so that our paint is still wet. Next, we're going to add more of a royal blue on top, and then we're going to go with that same lighter blue that we used for our swirl. And you're just going to randomly place it. There's no rhyme or reason to how you do this. Then you just keep doing the sky all the way around the cup in sections. Because this is a Nightmare Before Christmas cup, I really felt like it needed some more color in the sky, so I took some reds and oranges and I went around my stars and my moon just to create a little bit of extra color. And here is the zero that I forgot to show you how I sculpted, but I'm just painting him white, and he's also going to have a little pumpkin nose and the candy cane in his mouth. We also can't forget to paint his eyes black. Here I'm painting the little red stripes on his candy cane. This was a challenge because it's very tiny, so I'd absolutely recommend if you don't have one, get a very tiny fine liner brush. For Sally and Jack, I painted them both black because they're silhouetted against the moon. For Jack, I made his head and shirt just a little bit of a light gray, just so I can make his bow tie and his eyes pop just a little bit in that black. And here is our finished Nightmare Before Christmas Starry Night tumbler. I love making these Starry Night tumblers. They are some of my favorite designs to make. Just as a reminder that if you are doing this on a tumbler, to be sure to seal it with an FDA compliant epoxy or an epoxy alternative like Crystalac. I will be posting some more Starry Night designs, so that if this is something you would like to see, like and subscribe to my channel so you will be sure not to miss them. As always, have a great day and remember to stay crafty.